All right, so now that you know what you're doing for your research component, which is part A of your task, we'll move on to part B. So, part B, you are to synthesize your knowledge. So, what that means is use your research and your understanding of your character and of medieval society to write and present a 2 to 3 minute monologue. Okay, so you can see here. You need to describe your life from your character's point of view and your position in society. So, for example, if you're a peasant, you'll be talking about what your life is like as a peasant. In your monologue, you need to address the two controversial or difficult elements of your life, which we've already talked about, and how they affect you and your life. So I want your opinion and I want you to explain why these things are problems for you. Remember, you are the character, so you need to make sure that you are using pronouns like I, me, my, we, etc. So you can present how your character feels about their social position, their job, taxes, food, punishment, fear, etc. We've already gone through that. Right. Your monologue must demonstrate appropriate use of medieval language as discussed in class. So don't use an online generator because it won't be correct. Your teacher will give you sheets of vocabulary that you need to put in your monologue. So when you're writing it, you are going to write it in just normal plain English like what we would write today. Once you have your whole monologue written, you'll go back and you'll change 2 to 3 words per sentence to add in medieval words. For example, if you're talking about the Black Death and you want to say that you cover your face, you might say, I cover my visage. Visage is the Old English word for face. So you would just change that one word. Okay, so please make sure that you write it in plain, normal English like you would, and then go back and use the vocab sheets given to you to change some of the words. So the structure, you're going to write your monologue in the form of a script. You'll have an introduction, which will have some sort of hook that'll make it interesting for your audience. So you might like to walk into the classroom sweeping the floor and muttering to yourself about how much work you've got to do and how it's so tiring. You're going to describe who you are, what you do, and what your life is like. So that'll all be in your introduction. You should then discuss your 2 issues. So you'll have 2 body paragraphs, one for each problem or issue that you have and what your opinion is on them. Then you will have a brief conclusion about your probable future and a clear ending that explains why you're leaving. For example, you might say, I must go off and sharpen my sword for the oncoming crusade to make sure that I'm ready to defend God's honor or something like that. It's up to you. We have seen some very creative monologues in the past, so feel free to go and be as creative as you like. Now, you need to hand in a copy of your script for assessment. So you were marked on the written script, your written monologue, and you're also then marked on your presentation. So remember, your presentation is 2 to 3 minutes long. So you'll need to practice your monologue and make sure that it fits the time period. So you will be creating some palm cards. You'll get a week in class to actually practice and try to memorize it, but you'll also need to be practicing at home as well. Now, you should have a costume or some sort of props for your presentation. And a big tip is to actually use your props in your presentation. Don't just bring them in and pop them on the desk. So your costume would preferably be either homemade or borrowed, rather than purchasing one, because we don't want you to have to go and spend any money. You could make some props. If you're a blacksmith, for example, you could come in wearing an apron and you could have a little plastic hammer. There are no actual real weapons to come to school, so no swords, no actual hammers, nothing that could actually hurt or harm somebody, so please don't bring that. You need to practice your monologue and make sure you've got appropriate verbal and non-verbal components. So you've got facial expressions, you've got actions, you've got good tone in your voice, you've got eye contact. You know your monologue without having to rely on your palm cards. If you just stand up and read from your palm cards, unlikely that you're going to pass. So you need to immerse yourself in the character and show us what it is to be your character with thoughts and feelings. So memorizing it is the best way that you're going to be able to do well on this task. And you can have your palm cards, but don't rely on them. Now, there is some language and vocab to use on the sheet here if you want to, but you will get actual vocabulary sheets. Now, looking at the criteria sheet, this is what you're marked on. So the first section here where it says reading, this is where we mark you on your understanding of your medieval character. So have you got enough information? Do you understand what life was like for them? Have you used research to inform your understanding? So that's your reading mark here. Okay. The next one, your mark, is about your two problems. Have you discussed your problems? Are those problems actual problems for that character? Are they relevant to the time period? So, have you got a good understanding of what was actually going on at the time that your monologue is set? And are your problems relevant? So, those are your two reading marks here. You have a writing mark also, and this is about the structure of your monologue. Have you written it in the way that you were taught? And have you also used the medieval language, so the vocabulary that we will give you in your classes? And does that actually make your character more realistic? So that is what you're marked on there. And your final mark is your speaking. Okay, so this is a mark for your voice projection, your eye contact, if you've used palm cards or not, your timing, your pitch, your pronunciation, costume, props, and basically everything you need for correct characterization to portray yourself as that medieval person. Okay, so that is what you are doing for your task. So hopefully you have a better understanding of it now, and that you'll be able to complete the task to the best of your ability. All right, your due dates obviously on this here, if it's 2021 that you're watching this video, which is now that it's being made, you have your script due Friday of week 7. Your practicing will be in week 8. Hopefully you'll be able to start in the last lesson of week 8. Otherwise, all presentations will begin at the beginning of week 9. Obviously, if you're watching this later on, might be next year or the year after that this video is reused, then you will refer to your teacher for the actual due dates. Okay, thanks very much.